Hello! We are in my little reading corner. My roommates helped me rearrange my room so that I could fit my reading chair in here for the winter because it's usually in our sunroom in the summer. But I thought we could talk about my reading goals in my reading chair. That sounds fun to me. I spoke a little bit about my reading goals in my first vlog, but I didn't really go in depth with all of them, and so I want to talk about those, and I also want to talk about my most anticipated reads of 2025. Okay, kind of exciting. The first reading goal that I have is on my bingo card. It says like theological and early church books. I want to read Christian nonfiction. So if that's historic, or no, not even Christian nonfiction. Christian nonfiction, unless it's C.S. Lewis, then Christian fiction. There are a few that I'm currently reading right now. I feel like with Christian books, I start a lot and then I like finish, or I like quit halfway through, or I just read some like really slowly. Like I'm reading The Imitations of Christ as my morning devotional almost, and I'm also reading like a singleness, it's called Not Yet Married. I'm reading that currently. And I also started Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. And so I'm kind of in the middle of like a few of those, and so it kind of takes me longer to get through those because one, sometimes they can be really confusing, and two, sometimes I'm like, I'd rather read my fun book. Not that Christian books are not fun, but you know. I talked about the three that I'm in the middle of, but a couple that I am really excited to read this year. Orthodoxy by G.K. Chesterton, I think is his name. I'm really interested in reading that. And The Heart of Christ by Thomas Goodwin. I'm really into, I want to read that. I have both of those on my Kindle, and so I feel like when I'm doing like traveling this year, I might turn to those more. Goal number 2 for reading this year is going to be reading 10 cultural or racial books that explore themes that are different than mine. I'm allowing these to be either fiction or nonfiction. If it's nonfiction, it'll probably be a memoir. But I think that there are some good fiction books written by authors of these races or from these cultures that talk about their cultures and races really well, that I would really love to read. One book that I currently have is called Passing. I forget who it's by, but it seems really interesting, and I'm looking at it right now, and it's not a big book, so that seems like it'll be an easy one to check off and learn about. I do need to do some more research about finding those kinds of books and how I can intentionally pick up those books rather than picking up books that don't have representation in them or things like that. My next reading goal is 3 historical nonfiction books, which I was doing a little research, and I think that there are some interesting books that I could pick up that I would actually enjoy, but I'm just scared. when you're reading nonfiction historical books, it kind of feels like school almost. And when I was in high school, I did not read at all, no matter what it was. And that's gonna be a hard goal for me, but I think I will get through it. I am really interested. I want to read books about like America and how America was built. And there was one book that I saw on Goodreads. I forget what it's called. Let me find it. Okay, I can't find it, so maybe I'll never get the chance to read it. But it's a white cover with blue on it, and it says like some year to present. And I was reading the reviews on it and the description, and I was like, oh, this sounds awesome. Like, I think I should read this for one of my books. Over 700 pages. I'm sorry, but I probably can't do that. Probably cannot and will not try. So, we'll see. But I also read a book earlier last year about Christianity and the Roman Empire and the historical events in the Roman Empire and how the Christians were persecuted and how the Christians like developed a better society from the Roman Empire, and that was super interesting to me. And so looking into things like that, I would probably be able to read if it was a nonfiction historical book. My fourth reading goal this year is to read an author's entire library, and I've pretty much decided that it'll be Fredrik Backman, I think. I read Beartown, the series, and that book, like, actually, I really think it changed reading for me, because I have not been able to I've been trying to read since I finished Beartown, and it is just not the same, because Beartown is such, like, it's a mellow-toned book. It has so many cross-references. It has so many analogies, and there's just so much going on in the book, and it is super emotional that I'm trying to read my silly little books now, and I just can't. I'm like, this isn't enough for me. Like, I don't know. And so obviously I really love Fredrik Backman and his writing style. I did buy A Man Called Ove, so I'm going to read that soon. But I'm pretty sure I'll read his entire library. If it's not him, I think it'll be Taylor Jenkins Reid, because I love her stuff as well. Carrie Soto is Back, the first book I read, one of my favorites. Not the first book ever. The first book I read in 2024, one of my favorites of the year. I read Daisy Jones and the Six. Loved that book. Cried my way through the last like 15 pages, just like sobbing. And then my last goal for reading is going to just be read 60 books. My goal last year was 50, and like halfway through the year, I was at like 30 books. I was like somewhere like over halfway into the year, and my coworker was like, you should up it to 60. I feel like you're gonna hit 60. And I was like, yeah, maybe I should. And then I did, and then I got into like a huge slump, so I put it back down to 50, and I ended up reading like 53 or 54. So we're gonna have to hit that 60 this year. Taking a break to talk about how good my coffee is. It's just honey and cinnamon. And it's so good. Okay, now we're gonna talk about my most anticipated reads of 2025. There's only a few, but it's a good list. Starting off with probably my most anticipated of the year, which is the one that's coming out first, is Sunrise on the Reaping. They just came out with the, what is it, the recap, or not the recap, a snippet of like the first chapter, an excerpt of the first chapter. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna eat this up. Yeah, the day it comes out, I'm going to sit in my bed and I'm going to read it front to back. And then wait a year and a half for the movie. The next one, I'm going in the order of when they come out. The next one, which I'm going to give it a try, probably not as soon as it comes out, maybe when it goes on paperback. Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I'm not an Emily Henry girl at all. I tried reading Beach Read, got like halfway through, tried reading People We Meet on Vacation, probably got like a fourth of the way through, and I was like, just not for me. Her and Abby Jimenez, I just tried reading an Abby Jimenez book, not for me. Love those who it is for you, but it's personally not for me. I just don't know. But this one sounds interesting, so I want to give it a try. But I still don't know if I'll really love it. The next one is My Friends by Frederick Bachman, mostly on my most anticipated because I'm going to read his entire library probably this year, so it has to be on that list. I don't really know anything about it. I just saw him post about it on Instagram, but I haven't looked into like what it's about or anything. And then also on the same day that My Friends comes out, The Love Haters by Catherine Center comes out. I read Bodyguard by her, I believe. Yeah, I read The Bodyguard and I loved it. I don't really remember everything in the book, but I remember reading it and relating to the main character so much and just loving that book. And I think I've read another Catherine Center book. I'm pretty sure I read another one of her books and I really liked it, and so that'll be fun. Next coming out in June is The Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This one is set in the 60s, I'm pretty sure, instead of the 70s, and I'm really interested to see if she's going to be making a world out of the 60s like she did with Carrie Soto and Daisy Jones and all of them. But I love her writing style. I love how she can make it really feel like those people were alive and like those people actually did the things that they did in the books and, you know, whatever. And then my last anticipated book of the year is Glorious Rivals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Before Beartown, The Inheritance Games was my favorite series ever. It's just so fun and such an easy read, and the way that she does romance subplots is just beautiful to me, like the perfect amount. Nothing too crazy goes on. And it's just so fun, and especially going into like the grandest games and like where this part of the universe is going has been super fun. And so just like continuing the grandest game and seeing who wins and all of that stuff, I think will be really fun and also cool to see just where she goes with it. Okay, so those were my reading goals and my most anticipated reads of the year from my comfy reading chair in my comfy reading corner with my coffee. And that was so fun. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your reading goals. Why not?